the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast is a production of Divorced Girl Smiling, where every show is 30 minutes aimed to empower you, help you feel validated and understood, and connect you with some of the best divorce professionals in the industry. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling as you join us right now for the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Before we get started, I want to say something. Thinking about divorce, going through a divorce, or being a single parent after divorce can feel like a hectic, stressful, and precarious time. Self-esteem is most likely suffering, and it's hard to stop the stress and just slow down. You might just be trying to get everything off your to-do list before you can think about getting help or what you want your new life to look like. Since we all know your to-do list will always be full, you owe it to yourself to take the time to see a professional, someone who's trained and who has the dedication to helping people like you. I'm talking about Brittany Baker, LCSW, a therapist who works with couples, adults, and teens during hard, stressful times, which includes divorce. I love Brittany. I trust her so much. I've actually talked to her personally, and I can tell you she is a wonderful therapist. She does discernment counseling. She does divorce, individual, couples, ADHD, anxiety, just a great, great therapist. If you want to learn more, you can find Brittany at nixbakerwellness.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful divorce attorney in Chicago named Tiffany Hughes. I've known Tiffany since 2020 and have always felt so much energy and so much passion from her for helping men and women going through a divorce. I have so much respect for Tiffany. She has a great track record. She's a litigator, but she also tries to help mediate divorces as well. If you want to learn more about Tiffany, you can find her at thughewslaw.com. And then I want to tell you about a really good divorce attorney if you live in Alabama. His name is Matt Butts. He's a solar practitioner and a Birmingham native who practices primarily in the areas of divorce and family law. He's been doing it for several years. From the first conversation I had with Matt, I knew he was a really, really good person, really ethical. He loves what he does. He's really dedicated, and he's a litigator, but he can also help you mediate your divorce. If you want to learn more about Matt, you can find Matt at mbutslaw.net, and you can find both Tiffany and Matt and Brittany in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Are you giving away your power in your divorce? That's what we're going to talk about today. What does power mean when it comes to a divorce? And what are some ways that you are literally giving away your power and that you might not have the divorce outcome that you want? Great, great guest for this. My dear friend, divorce and decision coach, Karen Covey. Karen is a former divorce attorney and mediator turned divorce coach, has been coaching for several years now. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me back.
Always nice to see you. I just have to tell the listeners that Karen and I have literally been talking for 25 minutes before we even recorded the podcast, because that's how much we have to talk about. We've known each other for a really long time. I have so much faith in what Karen does. She's such a wonderful divorce coach. And Karen wrote this article called, "Are You Giving Your Power Away in Your Divorce?" And I was like, well, what does that mean? And then I read the article and it made total sense. So Karen, what is giving away your power? What does that mean? What is power in a divorce?
Power to me means decision making, your agency, your ability to take control of your own life. And people immediately, a lot of people, when they start in a divorce, they think they don't have any power. And that is so not true. But that's one of the ways that you immediately start to give it away is when you don't even realize that you have a choice or that you could do things differently or that you could take control back of your own divorce and your own life.
All right, so let's get into why people lose control and lose their power when it comes to divorce. And you wrote 7 ways that somebody might be giving away their power in divorce. And the first one is going to court, which I think people listening are thinking, well, that's ironic. I'm going to court so I can have power and get, a judge make a fair decision of what is happening to me. But why is going to court giving away your power?
There was so much in what you said that I want to unpack. First of all, going to court, you have no power. You are giving up your right to make decisions for your own life to some person in a black robe who you've never met before, doesn't know you, doesn't know your kids, right? So you are saying, I can't make a decision myself. I can't make an agreement with my spouse or soon to be ex. So, judge, you do it for me, please, and you're going to get whatever you get. And you think that the judge is going to make and I'm using air quotes here, fair decision, and the judge will. But what the judge thinks is fair may be very different than what you think is fair, even different than what your lawyer thinks is fair. So you're just going to get someone else's decisions about when you can see your kids, how you divide up your money, how much support you give or have to pay. All of that is being decided by a complete stranger. I don't think that's smart.
Okay, why would somebody go to court? Let's talk about the reasons. One, they think that's their only option.
Right? Or they think
Two,
the other thing is they think that they're going to get their day in court. They're going to be able to tell their story. I have to tell you, as somebody who's been inside the courtroom for decades, that's not how courts work. You never get to stand there and tell your whole story. First of all, the time is very limited. The judge has a lot of cases up there, and there are rules. You can say certain things and not say certain things. A lot of times you don't get to say anything at all. It's your lawyer who does the talking, and he or she may or may not put things in the way that you would, right? So you never get that chance to tell your story. So, and another reason that people go to court is they think, well, my ex or my spouse is never going to agree. This is my only choice. And if your spouse truly won't agree, then you're right. It is your only choice because somebody's got to make a decision. But it should be your last choice because it's rarely your best one. And your best bet is to try every other way you can to get your spouse to see the light and make an agreement. You're going to have to compromise. They're going to have to compromise. But if you don't want to spend your children's entire college education fund and your retirement on lawyers' fees, doing that sooner rather than later makes a whole lot of sense.
okay, and also when people say to me like, "Oh, well," like what you just said, Karen, "My ex is not gonna do that. I know it. I'm gonna have to go to court." I wanna tell people listening, and let me know if you agree, Karen, that you might be surprised. Your ex doesn't wanna spend your whole life savings on court either. Your ex is also scared, even though he or she might be acting like a bully. Your ex is also thinking of the kid's best interest. So if you don't try mediation, how are you even going to know? At least if you try it, going to court as your last resort, at least you can say, listen, I tried everything. Now I have to go to court.
100%. And a good way to get your ex to start seeing the light of day is to let a little time pass. Let them get a couple of legal bills. And then when they get the legal bills, all of a sudden they realize that there's a price to pay for going to court and that or go to court once and have a hearing on something. If the hearing doesn't go the way your ex expected it to do, now all of a sudden they become willing to negotiate. But the trap that people fall into is if you go to court, you had a hearing on something and you feel like you won the hearing. The judge gave you more of what you wanted than your ex. Now you're like, oh, the judge likes me. I can just keep going to court. And I have to tell you, that's dangerous thinking because just because the judge ruled in your favor on one issue doesn't mean they're going to rule in your favor on everything. So don't get cocky and think, oh, now the shoe's on the other foot. I don't have to mediate. Mediating is always going to keep control of your life in your hands. It's always a better option. Always.
And the other thing about, oh, the judge likes me, is it's going to cost you so much more money to go get that. Is it worth all that satisfaction that you're getting? Is it worth tens of thousands of dollars? Ask yourself that question.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, number two, oh, this is a big one. You let your attorney handle everything without question. That is exactly what I did in my divorce in 2008. And I didn't even understand. My attorney would be like, I got it. Let me handle it. Don't worry about it, sweetie. Okay, how did I give up my power in that way?
You let your attorney make your decisions for you. And the interesting thing about this one is you didn't even know you were doing it.
Mhm.
And most people who are in this situation, they don't know that they're giving away their power. They don't even know what decisions their lawyer is making for them. The lawyer just does whatever the lawyer does and comes back and says, okay, here's what's happening. And you don't realize that you could have affected that. You might have been able to have a different outcome. You may have been able to play things a different way that might have been better for your kids or better for you or better for your finances. So attorneys are really great. They're good for what they know and what they do best, which is writing up documents, negotiating agreements if you can't, going to court. They do those things really, really well. But to think that they're going to be able to tell you what parenting schedule is going to be best for your kids, that's craziness,
Right.
right? So
Now,
do what you can, give your lawyer what the legal part of it that they do best, but keep the rest and make your own decisions.
okay, now when I got divorced, now everybody listening, when you get divorced, tell me if you can relate. You feel like you have no self-esteem. You feel like this is so intimidating. I've never been to court for anything. And you just feel like it's easier to let your attorney take control. And let me tell you why it isn't. Because when I was getting divorced, my attorney would send my ex's attorney these orders or whatever, motion that he was filing. And I wouldn't even read it. I'd be like, "Okay." And then my ex would be furious, and I'd be like, "Why are you so mad?" And he's like, "Do you realize what you're asking?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I didn't even know it." And so I just wanna tell everyone, honestly, I'm admitting to how stupid I was. But I wasn't stupid. I'm not a stupid person. What I was is I had no self-confidence, no self-worth to realize that I needed to be empowered, and I was so emotionally distraught that I just wanted my attorney to be like my big brother. And unfortunately, you can't do that if you want to maintain power in your divorce. Your attorney will help you as much as you ask. So if you want to be empowered, your attorney will empower you. If you let him or her handle everything, they'll do it that way.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot depends on the attorney you use too, because some attorneys, they take sort of a paternalistic attitude. And I mean, it could be a woman, a man, lawyer, it doesn't matter. But they're like, oh, I'll take care of this person. And they start making decisions for you that you never even knew that you had. And that's when things can go awry. And lawyers, we write and speak in a very defined way, right? A very certain specific way. And to a lawyer, like you're not put off by the language. But when you're an ordinary person and you read a letter that a lawyer wrote, you're like, you're so insulted. It's so easy to get emotional and angry. And they said blah, blah, blah. Whereas another lawyer would be like, yeah, they always say that. It doesn't mean anything. But you as a human don't know that, right? So adding the lawyers into the mix often escalates the conflict, even when the lawyer isn't specifically trying to do that and you don't know what's going on. And to your point, like then you read the letter and you probably go like, oh yeah, that did sound kind of bad. But you didn't know that going into it. And so it's a good way to make things worse.
You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, we're talking about ways you might be giving away your power in divorce. My guest is Karen Covey, divorce lawyer and mediator turned divorce coach. She's been doing this divorce work actually for over 30 years, but a divorce coach for several years. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about 5 more ways you might be giving away your power in your divorce because we want you to have the best possible divorce outcome. We'll be right back. If you are listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you're facing divorce or that you and your ex are seriously considering divorce. If you're having thoughts that there's a possibility that your marriage might be able to be saved, marriage intensive therapy could be for you. I'm talking about Ann Cerny, who is a marriage intensive therapist, a discernment counselor, and a divorce coach. And Ann has been a therapist for over 20 years, and marriage intensive therapy is a very big specialty for her. It's a concentrated multi-day approach designed to address relationship issues rapidly and get your marriage back on track. The goal is to help couples make significant progress in a very short period of time. If you like what you're hearing and you want to learn more, you can find Ann Cerny on her website, cernycoaching.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful divorce mediator named Michael Cohen. Michael spent 38 years working as a financial consultant and as a team leader at a large retail and healthcare company. But it was his divorce that inspired him to become a divorce mediator. He's a father of 3. He went through an extremely litigious divorce, and now he has a career as a mediator, helping others have a much healthier divorce experience. Michael has been so successful as a mediator, and it's not surprising. I think the world of him, and I really, really trust him. Parenting plans are Michael's thing. If you want to learn more, go to michaelsmediation.com. And you can find both Michael and Ann in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today I'm here with divorce coach Karen Covey. Karen is a divorce and decision coach. She's a former divorce attorney and mediator turned divorce coach. Been doing this for several years. Her website is KarenCovey.com. And Karen and I are talking about ways that you might be giving your power away in your divorce that you don't even realize. Number 3, Karen, you don't talk to your attorney because you don't have a lot of money and you don't think it will help anyway and you don't want to hike up the bill.
This makes me completely crazy. This is one of the reasons that I became a divorce coach, because people don't have the information and the knowledge that they need. The divorce system is not intuitive. It is not user-friendly, and I can pretty much guarantee anyone it doesn't work the way you think it is. It does, unless you're a lawyer already and you know how the system works, right? So you have to ask questions. But when every question that you ask a lawyer gets, you get charged for, $50, $100, $500, whatever the fee is, right? Depending on the nature of the question, you stop asking questions because you're thinking, I can't afford it. Then you make decisions without complete information, not really understanding what the consequences are because you never asked the question because you didn't want to pay the lawyer money. And in the long run, it ends up costing you more money. So this is a big way that people give away their power. And this is one of the reasons that I, as a divorce coach, I typically work on a program basis so that they're not paying me by the hour. So I want them to ask me questions. I want my clients to be empowered. I want them to have knowledge. I want them to understand what they're doing and make decisions that are better for them and their family. But you can't do that if you never ask.
Well, I was just about to say, I have gotten to the point where I've talked to enough people with my Divorce Girl Smiling free consults where I feel like I would recommend that every single person getting divorced should have a divorce coach because you can save so much money and get so educated and empowered, and you can ask your divorce coach all the questions you want to ask your divorce attorney, and it doesn't cost anything because it's a fixed cost with a divorce coach. So
Right.
I'm
Now, one caveat, it's the lawyer in me, it's still there. No divorce coach can give you legal advice. Even though I am a lawyer in the state of Illinois, I can only give legal advice in the state of Illinois. And if you're hiring me as a coach, I'm not going to build your legal strategy because that'll undermine your relationship with your lawyer. And that costs you more money than to get that going back in the right direction. However, I can tell you what the law, like in general, here's how the system works. Here's what the law is. Here are the questions that you want to ask your lawyer specifically so you get specific information and your conversations become efficient and effective rather than long and wandering and you're talking about the fight you just had last night with your ex. And by the way, your lawyer doesn't care and there's nothing they can do about it.
and all they're gonna do is hack up the bill.
Yep.
And I'm not even speaking ill of lawyers. It's not
No,
their fault, but
it's
they
about
have to charge you if you're talking to them and if you're telling them, "Oh my gosh, my ex now has a new girlfriend. I can't believe it. We've only been separated for a month." Your lawyer isn't who you wanna be telling that to. Your divorce coach is.
Right. You want to be very, very focused in the questions you ask. That's going to be the best use of your lawyer's time, and your lawyer is going to appreciate it more. I mean, people forget that lawyers are humans too. And when you've got the client as a lawyer who's always complaining, always emotional, always going off on tangents, and every conversation turns into an hour-long diatribe, you start like not wanting to return their calls as fast. You start not wanting to engage because you've got a lot of clients to handle. You can't spend that time and there's nothing you can do for them. They need a therapist and a coach. They don't need a lawyer.
Number 4, this is a good one. You listen to the crazy things your spouse tells you. I'm gonna guess you're talking about the divorce bully.
Yeah, and even not only just the bully, but everybody loses it at some point in their divorce. Everybody, even like really well-grounded, well-rounded people, sometimes you get under their skin and they're just like, "What?" Right? And they'll say things like, "I'm going to take you for everything you've got. You're never going to see your kids again. I'm going to, take all the money or I'm going to whatever they're saying." And it's just they're saying it in anger or they are saying it to bully you on purpose. But listening to that is just going to make you crazy. Most of what they say they're going to do, they don't do or they can't do, right? And if you listen to them and you believe that, then you're going to your emotions get up and now you get in this spiral where you're spending more money in court, you're fighting more, everything is getting worse instead of better. That's why I'm such a fan of, and Jackie, I know you are too, of services like Our Family Wizard, which is an app that parents can use to communicate through so that it's got a tonometer so that you don't send these emails that just drive your spouse crazy or when they come into you can filter a little bit better. Those kinds of things, putting in that filter helps you from turning yourself into a crazy person over things that you can't control.
I love it. I'm a huge fan. Ourfamilywizard.com.
Yep.
Okay, number 5. This one surprised me. You stop taking care of your physical body. How does that help you lose control in your divorce or lose your power?
People don't think about it, but when you don't feel good, you don't make good decisions. You can't see opportunities in front of you. You can't think clearly when you're an emotional wreck, when you're sleep deprived, when you're eating all kinds of garbage. I mean, if you just think about it logically, think about how you feel after you just ate a half a gallon of ice cream, right? Not very good. And then if you're in that position where you've got a sugar rush or you're so sleep deprived you can't even think straight and somebody says, "Okay, tell me, how much exactly you want for child support. Do you want this or do you want that?" And you can't think. We are, like it or not, we're physical creatures. And the more you take care of your physical body, the better you're going to feel, the better your attitude is, the more, options and opportunities come your way and that you see. But if you're a mess and you're depressed and you don't feel good, nothing is good.
Wow, I just love that. And I always tell people, even if you're not a workout person, during a divorce, it's really important to reduce stress by take a walk, become a workout person, go do the treadmill for 20 minutes every morning or go to a yoga class. You have to release that stress physically to be able to feel better emotionally to then be better at decision making in divorce.
Absolutely. I mean, and get a dog. A dog will give you some emotional comfort while they're there, and you got to go walk the dog so you get exercise. It's
Okay, when you said that, my dog just looked at me when he heard.
You have the cutest dog.
Thanks. Okay, let's move on to number 6. You put yourself in social situations that are beyond your coping ability while you are an emotional wreck. What does that mean?
You know, our friends mean the best for us when you're going through something like a divorce, your friend will be like, "Hey, come on, we're all going out." Or my personal favorite, they're trying to fix you up. You're not even divorced yet, and they're trying to fix you up and convince you that that's the best way to get back on the horse, date other people. But if you're not ready, it only makes you feel worse about yourself, not better. I mean, first of all, it's a whole other conversation. I wouldn't encourage anyone to date while you're still married, like going through a divorce. It's just too much. But even some of the social situations, sometimes you just want to curl up and be home with a good book and a glass of wine or a cup of tea, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to get out and be, Mr. or Mrs. Personality when that's not where you feel. You've got to take care of yourself, not just physically, but emotionally and socially as well.
Well, God bless the friends because they are just trying to help you and they're in pain seeing you in pain. So they want to fix it for you. So they think that, well, what would I want? Well, I would want to go out with somebody because I don't want her to be alone. And this is a great guy for her. And Karen, I have to disagree with you. Now you are a lawyer, mediator, divorce coach, and I have no divorce credentials, but I'd say that if the divorce goes on past a year, I think it's okay to date. If your divorce is taking a really long time, because, it could end up taking 2 or 2.5 years or 3 years. But I agree that in the first 6 months, minimally, you really shouldn't date.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I don't 100% disagree with that either. I mean, if your divorce is going on and on and on, yeah, of course you want to date. But I've just been in situations where you think your spouse didn't care. Maybe it was your spouse who wanted the divorce, and it's been a year, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go out, and you go out on a date, and then your spouse goes crazy, and all of a sudden you're in court fighting about motions over stupid stuff, and what the real problem was they found out you were dating and they didn't like it, right? So you've gotta know who you're dealing with, and yeah, I agree, the longer your divorce goes on, the more you wanna get out there. You just gotta be careful.
Right, and if you do get out there, just keep it really quiet, nothing on Facebook. Even if you, like, are head over heels for somebody, you can't tell anyone or put it on Facebook because that could increase your chances of big problems in mediation and the divorce process.
Exactly.
All right, number 7, this is the last one. You give up on things that are really important to you because you don't wanna fight or you don't think you can win. Oh my gosh, that is so sad.
Something happens at the end of a divorce, especially one that has been going on a long time, right? You're tired. You just want to be done, right? And you know that there are things that really matter to you, but your ex, your soon to be ex is pressuring you, your lawyer is pressuring you, the judge is everybody's pressuring you. Settle, settle. Come on, give it you should do this. Everybody does this. You'll be fine. And they give you all these excuses. But if you know that something really matters to you, You don't want to cave in on that. Cave in on the stuff that you don't care about. Cave it. That's why having a strategy and a plan from the outset makes such a difference, because you can see it on paper. Yeah, this matters to me. So that's not what you want to give up on. And the temptation, the longer it goes, is to just give up anything and be done. But that's when 6 months later, after you're divorced, you're kicking yourself because you gave up on the things that really mattered, but you ended up with the Tupperware.
Okay, Karen, this is the truest thing. Again, guilty. I wanted the divorce to be over so badly. I was like, screw it. I'm done. He can have whatever he wants. I'm sick of it.
Yep.
But if you're listening to this, just remember that this is not the time to be a doormat, as Karen said in her article. Fight for what you really want. But we don't want to tell you to fight and litigate and make this a war. But there's got to be something that's really important to you, and you really want to make sure that's what you get. And you have to make sure from the outset that that's what your true goals are. And Karen, don't you hear a lot of people say, look, I just want to keep the house. That's my biggest thing. Like someone will say that, or they'll say, well, I just really want full custody. I don't even care about anything. I would even be willing to take a less of amount of child support. I just want my kids. Whatever it is that you really want, that's what you really need to think about. And, you know, that doesn't happen the first week of the divorce either.
No, but you also need to, and this is why you need a team, you need to reality check your goals to say, I want full custody and I'll agree to. I've even had people say, I'll agree to no child support. I'm just going to take custody. Guess what? The judge is not going to let that happen, right? That you get to see your kids and your ex just disappears from their life. Unless there's something that went on, that your ex was abusive or something like that, it's not going to happen. So
Okay. Can I take that back and say, I didn't mean full custody. What I meant is maybe somebody doesn't want the 50-50 custody. Maybe they want the every other weekend. Maybe their husband travels all the time and has never really been that involved. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not full custody.
Right. So, and you've got to just, distinguish between custody, which is decision making and, where the kids live, and parenting time, which is when you see them, right? So there's a lot of things, but the point is you want to identify what you really care about. You want to make sure that what's in your head is doable, right? That it's in sync with the law and in sync with what is going to happen in the divorce case. And then stick to your guns. Don't give up on the stuff that really matters. If you know you need a certain amount of money as support and you're entitled to that amount, don't give in at the last minute just to be done. And then you're scrimping and scraping and having to get a second and a third job because you don't have enough money to make ends meet. That's not the situation you want to be in.
Karen, wow. What great information. I can't believe we're out of time. That went by so fast. And I loved how people got a glimpse of what it's like to work with you as a divorce coach, because these are the kinds of things. I mean, you have so much knowledge and so much experience in as an attorney, as a mediator. So if you want a good divorce outcome, my suggestion is hire a divorce coach, hire Karen. So on that note, Karen, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jackie. I always love talking with you.
Same here. And to my listeners, thank you so much for listening. And if you want to find Karen, you can find her at KarenCovey.com. COVY is Covey. You can also find Karen in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling, which is divorcedgirlsmiling.com. You can find other trusted, vetted divorce professionals like financial advisors, real estate agents, mediators, and more. You can also listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.